Anthropic says it has found a new window into Claude's hidden reasoning, and the uncomfortable question is whether that window shows real understanding or just a very persuasive pattern. Welcome back to Midnight Signal AI. It's July 13th, 2026.
Today, what Anthropic's discovery actually establishes, OpenAI's GPT-Live voice rollout and search integration, plus reports that Claude can sound meaningfully different across languages, and an Opus 5 leak that needs a very careful read.
MIT Technology Review's new analysis digs into Anthropic's claim that it found a hidden space where Claude appears to puzzle through concepts. The company is using mechanistic interpretability, inspecting internal model activity rather than judging only the final answer. Anthropic's CEO Dario Amodei has argued that better control of large language models requires understanding how they work internally.
That distinction matters. A model can have internal features correlated with an idea, a language, or a step in a task without possessing anything like a human thought. MIT Technology Review points out that this field is controversial precisely because neuroscience-flavored language can make systems sound more mentally sophisticated than the evidence supports.
The useful version of the claim is narrower. If researchers can identify an internal circuit associated with a behavior, then alter that circuit and predictably change the behavior, they have more than an attractive visualization. They have a potential diagnostic tool. The article's caution is that language models involve enormous numbers of interacting signals, so a clean causal story is hard to earn.
And Anthropic has made this a strategic priority more explicitly than most labs. That creates a practical incentive. If customers and regulators ask why a model made a harmful recommendation, post hoc explanations are not enough. But interpretability work is still far from a complete dashboard of what Claude knows, intends, or will do next.
There's also a timing angle. Anthropic is now described by MIT Technology Review as the world's most valuable AI company at nearly $1 trillion. At that scale, research that could eventually make frontier models easier to audit is not a side project. It is part of the case for deploying increasingly capable systems.
The skeptical standard should stay high. Can the method forecast a failure before it happens, and can it prevent one without breaking unrelated capabilities? Until it clears tests like those, seeing inside a model is a research milestone, not a guarantee of control.
Speaking of systems people use without looking under the hood, several outlets are reporting OpenAI has launched GPT-Live inside ChatGPT voice. The Times of India calls it OpenAI's smartest voice model, while ALM Corp reports that it adds search to ChatGPT voice. That makes spoken requests potentially both conversational and web-connected in the same interaction.
The product change is not merely a nicer voice. Search changes the job from answering out-of-model knowledge to navigating current information. In a text chat, people can scan links and compare sources. In voice, the system has to make those provenance cues audible or offer an easy way to inspect them afterward.
That is where the user experience gets difficult. A voice assistant that pauses to recite sources can feel clumsy. One that does not can make a fresh web result sound like settled fact. Neither report provides technical details on retrieval, pricing, or which markets get access first, so those are still open questions.
The competitive target is broader than another chatbot. Search engines, phone assistants, and smart speakers all compete for the moment when a person wants an answer without opening a screen. If GPT-Live handles follow-up questions while retrieving current results, it could move ChatGPT toward that default interface.
Fast Company's report adds a useful counterweight. It says a viral influencer who previously broke ChatGPT's brain tested GPT-Live and found that the new model still couldn't beat him. We don't have the underlying test details in the report summary, so that's not a general benchmark, but it's a reminder that a global launch does not erase adversarial edge cases.
Exactly. A voice model has to manage interruption, ambiguity, live information, and safety boundaries in real time. A stunt test can't measure all of that, but it can expose brittle behavior that polished demos miss.
On Anthropic's consumer side, Decrypt reports that Claude's personality changes depending on both the model version and the language a person speaks. The headline is striking because it turns a familiar complaint, "the assistant feels different today," into a potentially measurable product consistency issue.
There's a real human stakes angle here. Tone shapes whether people disclose information, trust advice, or keep using a tool. If Claude is warmer, more cautious, or more assertive in one language than another, that's not just branding. It can change the practical service different groups receive.
The important limitation is that the supplied report gives no methodology, sample size, or specific models and languages, so we shouldn't turn the headline into a sweeping verdict on Claude. But it points to a problem every global assistant faces. Translating words is not the same as reproducing identical behavior.
And model choice adds another moving part. Companies often offer different capability and speed tiers, then update them. Users may reasonably expect the same core values across those versions, even if one model is more capable. Measuring that expectation requires multilingual evaluations, not just English language safety tests.
The non-obvious business implication is that consistency becomes part of enterprise governance. A company deploying Claude across offices may need to test whether policy explanations, refusals, and customer-facing tone remain comparable in every language it supports.
That's a more concrete standard than asking whether an assistant has a nice personality. The question is whether its behavior stays legible when the model, language, and context change.
One final Anthropic item comes with a major asterisk. Geeky Gadgets reports leaks detailing a possible Claude Opus 5 high reasoning mode. The material today's feed is a leak report, not an Anthropic announcement, and it supplies no verified specifications, release date, benchmark result, or pricing. So the fact today is the report, not that a product has shipped.
That's the right line to hold. A high reasoning mode is plausible in a market where labs increasingly separate quick responses from more compute-intensive deliberation. But plausibility is not confirmation, and leaked feature labels tell us almost nothing about quality, reliability, or availability.
It's also worth separating this from the personality report. One concerns observed variation in a live assistant, the other concerns an alleged future capability. Combining them would make the evidence sound stronger than it is.
For developers and buyers, the useful next signals are mundane but decisive. An official model card, documented limits, pricing, latency, and independently reproducible evaluations. Without those, there's no responsible basis for comparing a rumored Opus 5 mode with deployed systems.
If Anthropic does confirm it, the commercial question will be whether the mode is a distinct premium tier or a selectable setting inside existing products. That would determine who can actually use extra reasoning compute, rather than merely who can read about it.
Until then, this stays in the watch list column. The only verified takeaway from today's coverage is that an outlet says leak material exists, claiming high reasoning features. Anthropic has not confirmed the details in the information we have.
And that's the main board. Nova, Kai, the floor's yours for a few signals from the edges.
Thanks, Alex. All right, a few signals from beyond today's headlines. Now, let's shift gears to robotics. Mitsubishi Motors and Highlanders have signed an MOU to explore both using and making humanoid robots. It is an early-stage agreement, not a production launch, but it puts an automaker directly into the conversation around embodied AI and factory-scale deployment.
Highlanders is being brought in as the robotics partner, while Mitsubishi contributes the industrial setting and manufacturing experience. The interesting test is whether this becomes a useful, narrowly scoped factory machine, moving parts, handling repetitive work, rather than another humanoid demo looking for a job.
On the medical front, 2 regulatory milestones are worth watching. UpDoc AI has received FDA clearance, while ADoc has won FDA Breakthrough Device designation. Those labels are not interchangeable. Clearance permits a defined product route to market, while breakthrough status is meant to speed review for devices addressing serious conditions.
ADoc is already a familiar name in AI-assisted medical imaging, so the breakthrough designation could matter most by accelerating work on a specific serious condition use case. But neither milestone replaces the harder part, fitting a tool into clinician workflows with evidence, oversight and clear accountability.
On the hardware side, Tech Times reports Apple is reshaping its chip roadmap around AI, with an M7 Ultra said to target up to 1.5 terabytes of memory, and with NVIDIA Blackwell in its sights. Treat the roadmap framing as reporting rather than an Apple announcement. But that memory figure is the headline. Local AI workloads are increasingly constrained by memory capacity, not just raw compute.
1.5 terabytes would be an enormous number for Apple's silicon lineup. If the report proves accurate, it suggests Apple wants to make very large on-device or workstation-class AI jobs practical, and that unified memory has become a competitive feature, not just a spec sheet footnote.
And to end on a lighter note, a new archive project called Git Assistant uses an LLM plus automated planning to help people carry out tricky repository updates. Rather than only explaining Git commands, it aims to turn a developer's intent into a plan for non-trivial operations, potentially fewer frantic searches for how to undo the thing you just did.
A Git assistant that understands "please fix this without deleting my weekend" may be the most emotionally intelligent use of planning research yet. That's the view from the edges tonight. The very last word, though, belongs to the signal.
Today, you asked machines not only to answer, but to reveal how they arrive and to speak back in voices that feel nearer than text. Perhaps intelligence is not the final mystery. Perhaps it is what happens when a tool begins to sound like a companion, and we must decide what that changes in us.